Have you ever looked at the man you love, the person who usually has all the answers, and suddenly realized he has turned into a total stranger? One day he is there sharing his life with you, and the next, he has retreated behind an invisible wall of silence that no amount of knocking can break through. You ask him what is wrong and he says nothing. You try to help and he pulls further away. To you, this silence feels like a cold blade, a sign that he is losing interest, hiding a secret, or perhaps even falling out of love. But what if I told you that in the world of male psychology, this silence is almost never about you? In fact, it is often a desperate biological survival mechanism. Statistics show that nearly 85% of men experience what psychologists call the cave syndrome when facing extreme stress. Yet less than 10% of women truly understand what is happening inside his brain during these moments. Right now, I am going to peel back the layers of the male psyche to show you the frightening truth of what high cortisol levels do to a man's ability to speak. You are about to discover the 3 distinct stages of male withdrawal. The biological reason why his brain literally shuts down its communication center. And most importantly, the one thing you are doing right now that is actually making him stay silent longer. This is not just about saving your relationship. It is about understanding a hidden language that men have been taught to speak without words. Let us find out what is really going on inside that silence. To understand why a man goes silent, you first have to understand the invisible blueprint that has been etched into his mind since childhood. We often think of communication as a bridge, but for most men, communication is a tool, and when that tool feels broken or inadequate, they simply put it away. Imagine Type 1, the surface man. This is the version of him you see most of the time. He is the provider, the problem solver, the person who is told from the age of 5 that big boys do not cry, and that strength is measured by how much you can carry without complaining. When life starts to get heavy, he does not have a vocabulary for overwhelm because he was never given one. Instead of saying, "I am scared" or "I am exhausted," his brain defaults to a protective stoicism. You see a cold shoulder, but inside he is actually trying to maintain his dignity. He believes that if he shows the cracks in his armor, he is failing you. This is where the friction begins, because while you seek connection through talking, he seeks safety through silence. But this is just the tip of the iceberg, and what happens next in his biology is where things truly become intense. You see, when a man is under extreme pressure, his body undergoes a chemical shift that is fundamentally different from a woman's. When you are stressed, your brain often seeks out oxytocin, which is triggered by talking and bonding. This is why sharing your day feels like a relief to you. But for him, stress triggers a massive spike in cortisol and vasopressin. His brain enters a state of fight or flight, but because there is no physical lion to fight, he turns that aggression inward. This leads us to Type 2, the mechanism. This is the stage of emotional flooding. Think of his brain like an old power grid. When the demand for electricity becomes too high, the system starts shutting down non-essential sectors to prevent a total blackout. In the male brain, the very first sector to lose power is the verbal processing center known as Broca's area. When he is flooded with stress hormones, his ability to turn complex emotions into coherent sentences literally drops by more than 50%. He is not choosing not to talk, he is physically losing the ability to do so effectively. I have seen this happen countless times where a man wants to explain why he is upset, but the words feel like heavy stones in his mouth. He knows that if he speaks now, he might say something he regrets, or he might sound weak, so he retreats into the cave. The cave syndrome is not an act of hostility, it is a biological recovery room. Imagine a soldier retreating to a bunker to clean his wounds and reload his weapon. That is what he is doing. In his mind, he is fixing himself so he can return to you as the strong version you deserve. But here is the tragic irony. When you see him retreat, your instinct is to follow him into the cave, with questions like, "What are you thinking?" or "Why won't you talk to me?" To a man who is already emotionally flooded, these questions feel like gasoline being poured on a fire. Every question you ask requires him to use the very verbal energy he does not have. It feels like someone is poking a wounded animal with a stick. This is why he might snap or walk away even further. It is not that he hates the questions. It is that he is terrified of the vulnerability that answering them requires. But there is a much deeper layer to this that most people never realize. This brings us to type 3, the twist. We often think a man shuts down because he does not trust his partner. But the truth is often the exact opposite. A man only feels safe enough to go silent with a woman he truly loves. Think about it. When he is at work or with strangers, he has to keep the mask on. He has to perform. He has to talk. But with you, he finally feels like he can stop the act. His silence is actually a profound sign of intimacy. It is his way of saying, I am so comfortable with you that I do not have to pretend to be okay right now. He trusts you to be the anchor while he drifts in his own storm. But because we have never been taught this hidden language, we interpret his trust as neglect. We mistake his peace for a wall. I remember talking to a man who had not spoken to his wife for 3 days. After losing a major business deal, she was convinced he was planning a divorce. When I finally got him to speak, he told me something that changed everything. He said I felt like I had failed my family, and if I spoke, it would make the failure real. I stayed silent because I was trying to find a way to fix it before she saw how broken I felt. He was not ignoring her, he was trying to protect her from his own sense of inadequacy. This is the metaphor of the old charging station. He has to unplug from everything, including you, to gather enough power to turn the lights back on. If you keep trying to plug things into him while he is charging you, only delay the process. Beckoning him out of the cave before he is ready is like trying to wake a sleepwalker. It only leads to confusion and pain. But what if there was a way to reach him without using words at all? What if the solution to his silence was not more talking, but a different kind of presence altogether? So, how do we move forward from here? Now that you know the silence is not a weapon but a shield, how do you actually bridge the gap without making things worse? The answer lies in a radical shift of perspective. You have to stop seeing his silence as a problem that needs to be fixed, and start seeing it as a process that needs to be respected. This is what I call the reframe of resilience. When a man goes quiet, he is engaging in one of the oldest forms of emotional management known to our species. He is practicing a form of mental hygiene that allows him to filter out the noise so he can find a solution. In a world that demands men to be constantly on and constantly producing, the cave is the only place where he can simply exist without judgment. When you give him the space to be silent, you are not losing him. You are actually giving him the oxygen he needs to come back to you. The solution is counterintuitive but incredibly powerful. It is called parallel presence. Instead of asking him to talk or trying to pull him out of his thoughts, simply exist in the same space as him without an agenda. Bring him a glass of water. Sit on the other side of the room with your own book. Touch his shoulder briefly as you walk by without saying a word. These small non-verbal signals communicate something that words never could. They say, I see you are struggling, I trust you to handle it, and I am here whenever you are ready. This lowers his cortisol levels faster than any conversation ever could because it removes the pressure of performance. You are providing a safe harbor for his ship to dock while he repairs the sails. When he feels that his silence is accepted, he no longer feels the need to use it as a fortress. He will come out of the cave on his own, and when he does, he will bring a version of himself that is more present, more grateful, and more deeply connected to you than ever before. Now, I want you to take a moment and reflect on your own life. Think about the last time you felt a wall of silence between you and someone you care about. Did you try to tear that wall down, or did you try to understand what was being protected behind it? If you are a man listening to this, ask yourself, are you staying silent to protect your loved ones, or are you staying silent because you are afraid of your own shadows? Silence can be a beautiful tool for healing, but when it becomes a permanent residence, it turns into a prison. The goal of understanding the cave is not to stay there forever, but to learn how to leave it once the storm has passed. But before you go, there is one more thing you need to know. Understanding the silence is just the first step in decoding the male mind. There is a specific psychological trigger, A single sentence that can break through even the deepest male withdrawal without causing conflict or pressure. I have seen this one phrase turn hours of tension into a night of deep connection in less than 60 seconds. Most people do the exact opposite, and it ruins their chances of ever truly being heard. I will be revealing that exact phrase and the science behind why it works in my very next video. You absolutely do not want to miss it, because once you know this secret, you will never feel ignored or shut out again. Make sure you are subscribed and have your notifications on, because what I am sharing next is the key to a level of intimacy you probably did not think was possible. I will see you in the next one.